Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of From the Root to the Fruit. I'm your host, as always, Jay Smith. Today's guest is really a outstanding human being. It's going to be a great opportunity to get the woman of color. The women are going to rule this month. I'm going to go ahead and let you know. We want to get the voices of women heard with so many outstanding situations in our society right now. I felt it needed to be heard the other side. Like we have men in situations, and I'm not going to get into to the political side of things as much as try to educate like a boots on the ground perspective, whether it's dealing with situations with that individuals of color may have to deal with or think about or have put in perspective that some of my other Asian brothers, white brothers, whatever the case may be, they just don't like, or they do. And also like having a situation where you're willing to come to the table, have conversations. I believe that's the way that we continue to grow. That's the way that we continue to progress within ourselves and also in the world at large. Wise man once said, if you want to change the world, first change yourself. With no further ado, Miss Tanya Ford. Tanya, welcome to the podcast. I appreciate your time.
Thought you would never ask. I watched you invite my husband. I was sad. I was like, he's not interesting.
Oh wow, damn. Well, see, I appreciate that, and that's a part of it, right? Like having real and honest conversations. And shout out to my man Andrell. Yes, you are interesting. I appreciate you. You already know what it is.
Well, I'm sorry.
Tell
He is interesting. He's just not as interesting as me.
Hey, I'm all the way for it. That's a part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
having we got to meet each other in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And subsequently you live in California, we live in Nevada. Like uh, Easters and family gatherings and stuff like that. You guys welcomed us in. We forever grateful. You guys are a part of our family, as it were, in that regard for a lot of reasons. Why? I'm gonna ask on the pod for everybody. Like, why? What was that reach out moment and that allowment, especially in the world that we kind of live in today, where people and you already know who I am. If I don't fuck with you, yeah.
This is true. And it's pretty funny because I was thinking about this, thinking about things that you might ask me as we were, discussing, life and love and family and work and all kinds of other stuff. Like, how do you create this energy where people want to come in and hang around you or want to have conversations with you and stuff? And I felt like Seattle, when I initially moved there, it was just me and my two older boys. And so I was alone, single mom, didn't really have family or anyone to lean on. And I basically gravitated to one person that also was there from the Bay Area. And his name's Chen Vo. And we've been friends forever. And we gravitated to each other, and we just kind of like, he brought in his girlfriend at the time, and then it was just me, and we hung out and we brought the kids together. And I just always thought like, oh, I want to build a community like this. So little by little, I just would find people that had the same energy as I did. Good people, talk shit, got some kids.
I mean, the whole they already know.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Right. Yep. Threaten your kids, like, but not really follow through. I mean, maybe, but we will leave that for another conversation.
They can't know if I'm gonna do it or not. That's
Right.
the point. That's the point
That
I
is
want you
the
to
point.
understand.
Yes. Yes. But it was just nice to be around like my individuals. So when I met Dawn initially, your wife, obviously,
Yes, ma'am.
it was at work. We had a lot of things in common, obviously, like work wise. But Dawn's just a sweet individual. You obviously know this.
Well, I don't know if my experience is necessarily the experience of everyone, but yes, yeah.
Yes, yes. experiences may be different. But obviously through Dawn, we had met, and then she introduced me, and obviously she was a transplant as well,
Yeah.
coming from North Carolina. And I just had like I don't know, a big heart for anybody who had to move to Seattle without family and didn't have anyone there. So that's kind of how that relationship developed. It developed at work, and then eventually I'm like, just come over, let's have drinks, let's eat gumbo, let's do all this other stuff. And everybody just became my family away from home, and it was nice. Yeah, yeah.
So what are some of the, and you touched on it a little bit, right? Like the being a single mom in a space. I'll tell her how it is. It ain't easy no matter where you're at. It's definitely not easy in a situation where you're transplanted and you're in another uh, area, and they say melting pot. It depends on how you melt and what's in that pot, I guess. There's a lot of Caucasians. There's a modicum of diversity, but it depends on where you work or what it is that you
Yeah,
do more
yeah,
that adds to the diversity.
yeah.
What are some of the things that one wouldn't think of in that regard, being a single mom?
Well, I tell you what, I was 26 when I moved to Seattle as a single mother. My kids were 5 and 6 at the time. So I was pretty young when I had them. I knew nothing. I knew a damn thing. I realize that now. I thought I knew a whole lot at 26, but I didn't know shit.
Right. That's
Yeah.
real. That's real.
And so I was like, I don't even think I had like Seattle on my radar. So I just moved there like blindly. I was like, I just want to buy a house close to the Microsoft campus. Oh, I didn't even look into schools and stuff. Again, I was young. Bought my first house at 26. I mean, by myself as a single mom, bought my first house. I didn't really know what I was doing in hindsight now, but I thought I did.
Right.
So I moved to Kirkland, the Juanita area of Kirkland. And
Oh, I know.
we were pretty much the only Black family in
Yep.
yeah. And single woman, 2 young Black boys. My neighbors were pretty nice. I didn't have any problems with them, the few that I like spoke with. But it was just challenging going somewhere new, not knowing anything, and then living in an environment that I wasn't used to, coming from California during that time, and what I feel like is a melting pot.
Right.
California had a huge uh, Black population growing up in the 80s and 90s. Um, and it was just like a culture shock for me. It was really hard to like see someone else who looked like me. Like, you had to go on the other side of the bridge.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
It's different, and to your point, like when we first moved there,
Yeah.
one of the things that really stood out to me, we visited first, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I no way, I'm not. What? No, please, no Seattle, thanks. Because you don't know until you know, right? Like where people think, oh, it rains all the time. That was the number one thing people said. Oh, it rains all the time. Well, it doesn't rain
Yeah.
all the time, but it also isn't sunny all the time either.
Right.
Uh, and I went into I'll never forget, I went into a Whole Foods, never been in one of those either. I went into a Whole Foods, and I was the like physical stature, the most imposing person in the building. I
Yeah.
just there was nothing to go off of, but and everyone was, to your point, everyone was super nice. It wasn't. I'm coming from the East Coast, the South, no less. Uh, we're nice on the it's like skipping a rock. We're nice on the surface,
Yeah.
but you start getting submerged into some stuff, and you're like, wait, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little bit different for sure.
Yeah. I remember my first like experience. One, I had a chip on my shoulder because I was 26. And excuse me, I had a chip on my shoulder because I knew that I was the only Black woman in on my team, in the room. Like, it
Right.
wasn't all the time, but I was always the only one. It just felt token. I just, it just, I don't know. Like you said, when you walked into Whole Foods, you know, your presence was felt,
It's like,
right?
all
Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah,
And and I don't know if it was so much the individuals who were there as it was from me noticing I was different.
that part, and I'm glad you said that. It wasn't that I was ever mistreated in a way or something. It's a lot the way that I was kind of raised in the environment and everything else, that I have a level of expectation that I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, as long as I do what it is that you need me to do,
yeah,
uh, everything will be fine. As
yeah,
soon as I step into the parts that I actually enjoy and I'm doing it for myself, now I get to see who you really are and what your intentions are and everything else. So that's more of a projection. I use it as a defense mechanism. I take all the responsibility. I completely understand.
yeah.
Also, that don't make that shit not true.
Right. I mean, there's that part. I mean, you heard me say like I had a chip on my shoulder, but I I do think there is a piece of this that we all kind of project this, I don't know, this uneasiness or uncomfortableness like
Right.
that we run across. Um, so I was gonna tell you like one of the days that I was had sorry, stumbling. One
It's
of
okay.
the
I can edit all this shit. Don't worry about it.
get that out. But one day, one of the first days that I was at the Microsoft campus in Redmond, and I was in the cafeteria, and another coworker was in there, right? Like it was just coworker, it was just other Microsoft employees. Sorry, I shouldn't say coworker. I didn't know this person. They were just another employee. And I'm standing there, I'm waiting for my turn to order, and I have braids in my hair. And I see the lady from the corner of my eye because I got a chip on my shoulder, so I can clearly see over my shoulder.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
be able to shoot a glance either way.
right. So I see her like looking at me and she's grinning. It's just a weird grin, like Stepford wife kind of grin, like behind on the side of me. I'm like, I don't know. She about to kill me, eat me, say hello. Who knows what's going on right here? Um, and she reaches out and like touches my shoulder, like where my hair is laying, like as if it was kind of like I'm touching your shoulder, but really she wanted to touch the hair.
This is okay. This is okay.
Yeah,
You'll like this.
yeah.
This is
You'll
okay.
like this. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
this will be fine.
And so, I kind of shrug my chipped shoulder and I look over at her and she kind of smiles. She's like, "Oh, I want to know where you get your hair done at." Or like, where do you get something like this done at? And I'm like, nowhere on this side of the water. Bridges separate Seattle from Redmond. And she just kind of looked at me and laughed. And, I just like brushed her off and like walked out. And I literally had that like demeanor probably for the first 6 months of living in Seattle. And then I don't know, I just like, we mentioned wearing this cloak, that we all
Yeah.
change into. Um, I kind of went into code switching, and I
Yes.
code switched for so long that it became my identity. So there's another topic that we have to get into, but I just started code switching and ignoring like people. I didn't even notice like people were looking at me after 6 months. Like after six
Mm.
months of being just angry and like, don't ask me anything. Oh, that's rude or whatever. I just said, you know what, forget it. People are going to be people. Maybe they're curious. Maybe they really are interested and want to know. And I just started thinking about it that way. So if they stared at me, I didn't even pay any attention to it. And like I said, I
But
code switched
is
so
that
much.
the case though? Like I'll devil's advocate. Fuck it.
Yeah,
It's my show. I'll devil's
do it.
advocate this
Do it.
shit. So if I want to know or I'm curious about a thing, right? Like that's foreign to me. It's not foreign, but it's foreign to me and how my operational processes and everything else. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm very direct. So instead of being lurking in the background, and it could be, ooh, what is he doing? Ooh, shit. Or just walk up and say, hey, I know this may seem out of left field, but I have this question because I don't have a point of reference for the answer. So if you wouldn't mind, I know your job is not to educate everybody about fucking everything, but
Right.
I really just want to know for the sake of knowing to
Yeah.
help. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can't help. Maybe it's beyond my scope. But instead of, it always seems fake. I need y'all to know. Like, if you're watching, that shit seems fake. And that's more off-putting than you just coming up and asking the question. If it's bred out of a real, interest and concern and want to know, like you want to be cultural about it, then that's fine. That's way better than you doing basically anything else, because that seems creepy and shitty. Sorry.
The creepy is accurate, because who wants someone to like just stare them down or touch their hair, trying to pretend that they're not touching their hair?
Like, oh shit, this ain't nowhere near me, but wow, that's magnificent.
Oh, I have that all the time with the locks too. Like, I had a coworker like put her arm on my back, like, but it was weird. It was just very weird. And I'm like, that's not okay. Um, but I I do like the straight up approach. Someone coming up to me and asking me, and just being mindful of like the words or the question, how they present it. Because there is a way that you can do it that feels disrespectful, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Words like, here, I'll give a couple. You people,
You people.
them. Oh, that's what y'all do.
Yes.
Any level of off-putting phrases that would make it so like we're all not a part of the human race, or we're all not in this particular area at the same time, and dehumanizes the person that you're speaking to. Doesn't necessarily need to be black, doesn't necessarily need to be Asian, midgets, tall people, short people, doesn't matter. Any scenario where you lead with some type of ego and
Yeah.
not a humility to understand,
Yeah.
you probably fucking that up.
Exactly. So you should already know. Here's a list of words not to fucking use. How about that? But and it's funny that you use you people, because whenever I want to be offensive, that's exactly the word.
I go dead to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
I don't even explain to people that I am trying to be offensive.
Mhm.
You should automatically feel offended if I say you people.
It's a wave underneath there that you got to be able to ride that. That's got to be in there.
Right, right. And usually if I'm using it to be offensive, it's in a funny way, and it's usually to my kids, you people.
Or
You
even
people
or
are
even give it, and everybody's done this. This is universal. Hey, if somebody that you know of or you're affiliated with in any way has fucked up, I
yeah.
will look to my wife immediately and say, hey, there your people over there.
Yes, all the time. Oh,
It's not about creed, it's not about color, religion, status, none of that.
yeah.
If you have taken a simple thing and screwed it up, them y'all people.
That's y'all people. Nothing over here, y'all people.
That's
Yeah,
it.
we do that regularly. We live gosh, I had to close the windows because there's an apartment complex right behind our townhouse, and it is owned by the city.
Okay.
And so it's subsidized, and there's everybody lives there. It's not like any particular group and stuff, but they have a problem of driving by and blasting their music. And every once in a while, Andrea will be like, yo, people, you people are out there. You're yeah. So anyhow, and usually that's because I'm driving blasting my music. So he's, but back to the conversation of when someone comes up to you, I really think it depends on how they approach you.
Yes.
And are you just using me for information, or have you like really thought about this? Have you done some research on your own? Are you like I don't know, having a debate. I don't know. I just feel like it has to be genuine and
Yes.
honest. They should feel safe going to somebody they know. I don't necessarily mean, pick me on the, street corner and ask me like any black question or woman, even as a woman, because
That's a whole different subset to
yeah,
your point. Like
yeah,
a black male will answer your question fundamentally different
yeah.
than a black female or another woman of color. Like just how it is.
It's just yeah, it's different. And it's so funny that we're like kind of getting into this like black and then woman thing because my company, they're really big on ERGs and having a safe space for different groups to be able to identify and dialogue and have allies join as well. And they have a woman's employee resource group. That's what ERG is for anybody who just doesn't
Oh
know.
no, no, I
Uh,
know you. I knew. I
you
thank you
do.
because I was getting ready to ask you to tell everybody else
Yeah.
that don't speak tech because you're like, what?
I want to
What's that
make sure that
acronym
I
for?
stop using all the short talk for descriptions for groups. But I automatically join the Black employee resource group because when I walk out, that's what I think of myself, even though you can look at me and know I'm a woman, but I never joined the women's ERG until they like actually asked me to. And then I joined. And they had a lot of conversations that were great, that like impacted me as a woman, but I always just connected more with the Black employee resource group. And it's funny because I was like, why do I do that? I automatically identify as Black first
Yes.
and then a woman, and I don't know if anybody else feels like that, like
If
when they walk out the door.
if you're and that's a I want to touch on two pieces of that because I'm with you. The first part is everyone has already fought so hard in these two dynamics to become whatever it is that you are. So instead of helping or lift as you climb,
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to figure out if that next person is trying to take my spot. So
Mm-hmm.
now you're in constant, and I know you gonna know what I'm talking about. The crabs in a bear. So now you're in this constant competition with what you perceive because they've now sicked you. Everybody's a they. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they have now pitted you against them like they're your rivals. So it's more difficult to be ingratiated and indoctrinated to say, "Hey, no, I'm one of them. I'm over here with them."
Yeah. 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 It really is interesting. And those groups they're different, like being well, they have very similar challenges, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But then and in some ways they work together. It's just different. Like history tells you, like women benefited from like the civil rights movement and stuff, that were led by a lot of Black men. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. But and there were plenty of women in there in the civil rights. I mean, anybody's watching this, you can read up on that. Like there were a lot of women in there like holding it down, Black, white. There were just a
Yes.
lot of women in there holding it down. But for me, women getting things today as a woman is much easier than getting it as a Black person. And so maybe I identify with like, oh, I want that struggle because it's harder to get those right. Because my company, and I love my company, don't get me wrong, I love them. It's always easier to say, oh, we should have hire more women in this area or as managers,
Right.
because there's probably more women managers than there are Black women managers or just Black people in general in the pool that they're looking in. I know that we've had that
Sure.
discussion in my company before. Like they're like, okay, women this big, the pool's this big, but like Black VPs this big, and it's hard to like pull from that that small pool. So I think the tendency is to lean for the easiest thing, the easy, like, layup, because you can meet your quota, you can meet your goal by
And
using
that and it depends on what you're, to your point, like what you're aiming for. If
yeah,
your aim is to actually be divergent, to actually have some diversity in your structure from the bottom,
yeah,
from the top to the bottom. If
yeah,
that's really your intention, well, yeah, you're going to put into place, to your point, like you're going to have things at a grassroots level because you're
yeah,
trying to cultivate more individuals to be in the pool with you that know what you're doing, that understand, that have followed it, that attract it. It's a lot easier to get blueberries from the grocery store than it is to get it from CVS.
right. They're at the grocery store.
They're at the grocery store. So
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting being in tech like all these years. And it wasn't intentional that I ended up in tech. This was like purely accidental. Because I mean, like I told you, I was a single mom, and I'm like, how am I gonna like make money and raise these kids on my own?
that's the juggle, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I like during the time, I don't know, I guess it was like not early mid 90s. Tech was a big deal. I wasn't smart enough to invest in it, unfortunately. But I was smart enough to navigate through those companies. And I navigated through a lot of tech companies through agencies,
okay,
which I don't think the agencies are a big deal these days. I don't know, maybe they are, but I haven't had an agency job in like 20 plus years. But I navigated all the tech companies by doing that. They would say, oh, we have this admin job that's supporting, the director of blah blah blah. And I'm like, yep, I got you. I could do that. And like, do you know Excel? I ain't never seen Excel before. I mean, I came from humble beginnings. I don't even think we had a computer. And the only computer that I probably seen was like at school or the library or whatever.
right.
And they'd say, oh, you know how to do, use Microsoft and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, sure, know it. They hired me for this job, and the director, oh, she was mean as hell. I don't, but it didn't matter. I needed to feed my kids. And she said, oh, I needed you to put this Excel file together and do X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. She's like, I need it by Friday. And it was Monday. I said, sure, I got you, no problem. She walked into her office. There was an Excel book. You remember the like books that came with
That looked like they were woven on the back. You got to crack, yeah.
it was like this thick. I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, okay, get to the part. She wants you to do these things. Like I was smart enough to kind of like look through the index and find like what I needed to do. Right nowadays, these kids don't know the struggle.
Oh
You can,
no, everything's at a
right,
finger, whatever you want.
you can watch a YouTube video, but I literally looked through that Excel book, figured out what she wanted me to do, and had the project done by Wednesday. So I've just always been like, that's just kind of how I like fell into. First I was an
I
admin,
love
and
this.
I worked at AMD, and then I like got into tech, and then I started doing technical support, and then I mean it just kind of like morphed into um this like life I created. um I don't know. I guess I also felt like I had a lot of help along the way by non-black people.
Well, and that's what I'm going to branch from here to there. We're going to go back. That's a part of it too. Like I think one of the less stated parts of Black America. Uh, it's important to assess what's actually taking place. Now, should my child, I'm gonna give an example, should my child be applauded for cleaning up a mess that he made? Maybe not. Depends on the mess. Now we're in a situation, to your point, there's nothing that I've done in my own personal life that was magnanimous or being in the place that I live, whatever the thing was, that the beginning of that didn't have something to do with an opportunity that was received to me
Mhm.
from a person that didn't look like me,
Yeah.
like ever. I'm being for real. There's never been. I've been a part of the Sigma Beta Club, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. All these things. Everybody's preaching the same gospel. It's a
Right.
brotherhood. We're all here together.
Right.
My first tremendous opportunity was given to me by a white guy that saw the what I could become. And you can make an argument both ways. I'm for it. He saw an opportunity in me that he could utilize to benefit him also.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
But by him giving me that opportunity, that inherently benefited me
Right.
and raised my stature predicated on my work ethic, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous because of the same thing that we were all taught. I don't care what house you grew up in, somebody somewhere gave you this sentence: twice as hard, half as much. You have to be better so more can see you, so you'll get that opportunity to get in that room that you begrudgingly walk into because you know what opportunities lie in that room, and nobody that looks like you is the leader of it.
Exactly. And the twice as hard thing is like real. It's real and it exists. Even today, being in tech, like again, I love my company. I feel like I gotta keep saying that.
Right? No, I'm with
Like,
you. Like it's not, and that's what and I'll preface it for you with you, right? Like it's not an indictment on how it's happening. It's just like why does this shit even need to be
why is it
happening?
still happening? Right. Yeah. Why does it even exist? But and they know I've had this conversation because I try to have open dialogue with leadership in my company, but I've been there for 5 years. Just celebrated my 5th year anniversary. Yes, 2 days ago, and I had never got a promotion until a year ago, but my other counterparts had gotten it. They've, I mean, not just 1, 2, and 3 promotions,
Oh
got
wow. Okay.
moved.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting here watching them like, okay, well, it's not my turn. Or I would ask, like, I'd be like, okay, what do I need to do to get a promotion? And how do I, go to this next level? And they'd say, oh, here are all the things you need to do. Got it. Because you give me a checklist, I'll check that motherfucker off. I'll double check, triple check. It is going to get checked off. So then I was doing all the check marks, and they're like, oh, but when it would come to promotion, it would like, oh, you would have had it, but this like one little check mark is off by an inch, and we can maybe next time. And
Yeah.
that kept happening to me. I mean, literally kept happening to me. And I would just be like, okay, well, work harder, work harder. And that is something that we as Black people, or not even just Black people, but women, Black people, and people of color do. I think
Yep.
it's generational.
I'll include and I'm gonna make sure I say this right because my daughter will track me down. LGBTQ and the rest of the stuff at the back. I haven't caught up to the rest of it, but I locked in on the LGBTQ. I got
Yeah,
y'all.
you
Yep.
got that. At least you started there. But we have this thing where the imposter syndrome. Oh, maybe I don't deserve that. Maybe I'm not maybe I need to put another check mark there, like questioning the work and your value
Yep.
that you add. And we know you're valuable because one, if you weren't, the company wouldn't be spending money on you to pay your salary. So you are valuable because you're doing the work. I've been there for 5 years. Clearly I'm adding some value there because it's easy for them to let you go. Um, you know, I I think we're just trained like that. At least from my household, it was kind of like keep your head down. Don't
Don't be too loud. That was
Yeah.
that, and I find myself catching. Excuse me. I find myself catching myself with
Mhm.
my kids in the same. I'll use Logan as a direct example. I'm like, dude, You're too loud. You're doing too much.
Yeah.
You're drawing too much attention. Well, that's who the hell he is. Like
Right.
that's just him. Now, yeah, does it need some aiming? He's not boisterous or anything in class or disruptive. That's not what it is. It's
Yeah.
just like out in public. I'm like, hey man, turn it down a little bit. But that's what I was always told. That same thing where you're talking about like code switching and being aware of your surroundings, and you're always on stage. I'll give it the way it was given to me. You're
Yep.
always on stage.
Yeah.
You don't know who's watching. You don't know what opportunity you might have missed because you said something or you were in a space that was something that echoes in my spirit, even in my relationship, my marriage, my things. Like, it's not, to your point, it's not a lack of value. I know I'm me.
Yeah.
I've been me the whole time. I know that. But
Right.
in a movement scenario, even when you're doing everything, you feel like, damn, what am I missing? What are they going to hold against me over here? Oh, I'll use a domesticated reference, right? Like I wash the dishes, I wash the clothes, I folded them, I clean the house, I clean the bathrooms the way it's supposed to be. All the kids are taken care of, everything's situated. Now what? Instead of doing those things, make no mistake, I do them because they need to be done. I love my wife and all the things. But I've been trained and taught in my personal life growing up, I eliminate the shit that you would say that you have a problem with me doing X, or you don't want me doing Y. I eliminate those with my work ethic. There's no way you can tell me or anybody else that I don't work hard,
Right.
or I'm not a hard worker, which is also the stigma, which is hilarious to me, being that Black people built this fucking country on their backs.
On their backs.
Telling me about how lazy Black people are. How's that? Okay.
Yeah.
But another time, another place.
I'm just laughing because I read a post on Facebook, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail us or take us somewhere else, but I read a post that I posted like a couple, like in the last year or two, as racial tension was really kind of like heating up, and I seen a video where somebody told Mexican guy, like, go back to your country, and I like made this post, and I'm like, if you ever find yourself with the urge to tell somebody to go back to where they're from, we are all here on stolen land, built off the backs of slaves, on a or benefiting from an economy that was built off the backs of slaves. Free labor. Yeah. And we all can go back to our own countries, like if we really want to like talk about it. But yeah. Anyhow, please continue.
It's but it's in that same vein, right? Like it's who I am. Like I'm now, to your earlier point, I'm now both of these people at the same time. Because I very much am aware, you even being light skinned, be serious about it. Like, I was picked on in school by white kids and dark skinned kids. So I got really good. And now in my in my personal life, I'm very quick witted. I was in a bunch of fights and I was like, well, damn, I don't need to fight everybody, do it. Okay, cool. Well, are we just sitting here talking? You're not going to beat me in a debate or a conversation, especially if I can reach for things that I can see and I can pull those, and it's just tough. So that builds those neural pathways to your point, like code switching, knowing my environment. Who am I speaking to? Am I talking to the janitor or am I talking to the CEO? I have a track for both of those. Am I trying to audition for something? Is there an opportunity that you're trying to give me or I'm trying to give you? I have a track for that. Like those things are, I understand what they are now because I'm old and I get it. But when you're learning those are defense mechanisms. Those are ways of existing, right? Like those are ways, and they carry with them a burden. That's the one I want to use. They carry with them a burden because you lose, to your earlier point, right? Like you lose who you actually are to fit into this space for what you really want, which is to be accepted and to be counted on and just let your work speak. That's fundamentally, I feel, right? Like I'm not the spokesperson for all Blackness. I'm just saying I feel when I'm most projective, when I'm most deliberate about what comes out of my face, it's because I want you to see how much I care about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with my skin tone, but I have to convince you of that first.
That's crazy. Like, why? Why do we have to even go there? But and then I mentioned earlier, like, I feel like it's a conditioning based off of what generation you're
Oh,
from.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. For
And
sure.
as we continue to get away from the boomers, no shade on the boomers, but shade. I feel like we are starting to like move away from like feeling like or having that imposter syndrome, or that we have to explain ourselves for doing so. I mean, do you ever find yourself, because I do this and I'm a thief. I mean, if I accidentally take water, on the bottom of the basket from the
Yeah.
grocery store, I literally will come back and
Oh,
pay
I'll
for
go
it.
back. Oh,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
hesitation. Even the same things that, and we pass what we've been given.
Yeah.
Let me say what it is. We
Right.
pass what we've been given. So
Right.
when my kids, Kyler and Mackenzie, even Logan, when they walk into a store, keep your hands to yourself so you know where they are.
So right.
That's it. Because I mean, everybody, you want to pick up. What
Yeah.
is that?
No.
How much is that? You want to pick something up? Nope, don't pick nothing up just because you're doing something else. You put it in your pocket. You didn't mean to. We got money, so you ain't got to
Right.
steal nothing from nobody.
Nothing for me. Do you ever feel uncomfortable though if you walk into a store and then immediately you're going in there for one thing, it doesn't happen to be there, you immediately turn around and like leave? Do you feel like, oh
I feel
shit,
weird. Yeah, I'm like, oh damn, now I look like I done stole some shit from this pile. Yes, yes, I do. But that, and again, like I said, it wasn't until my grandmother passed away like two years ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't until her and I we had a disagreement as to the way things should go. So we didn't speak for a while. That was my fault. I take full responsibility for that. I told her as much when we started talking again. It wasn't until she said, "You have to let your light shine." This woman has never said that to me, and the upcoming and the bringing up period, not one time. She told me this as a grown man, and it transitioned how I behaved. I didn't. It was like it was a liberation for me because I lived under the expectation, of how the standard should be upheld. And it wasn't until having that, there was more to that conversation, but having that conversation with her where she was old school. I mean, I'm talking about old school, like picking cotton, like old school. She felt like things should be done a certain way because that's what they said. That things that, to your point, you checked all the boxes and you still didn't get what you felt you deserved because they said.
Yeah.
She said you're living and you're getting an opportunity to be, do, and go places that I will never see. Take that opportunity to be yourself when you get there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until then, Tanya, I'm telling you live and in color, I'm 42 years old. I'm the grownest of grown ass men. And I'm telling you, that brought me to tears.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that whether it's code switching, whether it's the mask that we all put on to go, like we really are like, and I'm like an Avenger. Like you have to get dressed to leave, to go.
Yeah.
To go do this thing, to be judged, to be looked at, to have an expectation placed on you and everything else.
Yeah.
The scrutiny alone makes you want to sit in your vehicle 30 minutes before you go into work. I'm not late because I wasn't here. I got to get prepared for this shit.
Yeah. So that's why I used to walk. It was a mile walk from from BART to my office. And every day I did that walk. I walked to prepare myself for the code switch and walked home to unswitch myself. It wasn't that hard because again, my code switching eventually just became my identity. But I don't know. I'm not gonna be out work calling people motherfuckers, but at home I will.
I do. It's in here. I don't like always let it fly. Like
Right.
sometimes, like, but it's in the hopper. it could come out.
It
I
could
just
come
don't
out.
let it
Yeah.
roll. Like I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's okay. Yeah, let me
Yeah.
find a different one. Okay, I'll pull out the bin and find a different word. But I want to use this one because it goes everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the motherfucker just feels right rolling off my tongue. And
Feels
they
right.
don't know how many times I've wanted to say that, like at work, like, you dumbass motherfucker. Let
Yes.
me, just straight up. Yeah.
And
Don't.
I want to put it out there for the world. And I understand some people might not get it, and that's not lost on me. I get it that you may not get it. I get that you may not get it. So, motherfucker is not one of those things that necessarily means something negative. Like I could be pointing something out. You see this motherfucker? Like it does not necessarily mean that, hey, I don't like you or whatever. You could be my motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, what's up, motherfucker?
So don't take everything how you hear it. Take it how it was delivered. So that's all.
But isn't that just, I don't know, Black people in general, like a word can mean like 6 different things.
At least that's the low end of the spectrum. At least 6 or 7 different things. Like you can't. Yeah. This is different.
It's just different. It's different. I appreciate it too. I appreciate it, but I don't know that, like I said, the code switching feels like it's become part of my identity and the way that I'm like, okay, well, this is who I am. And I don't notice it. And it's kind of even back to the point with living in Seattle. I stopped noticing that I was the only Black person in the room because it just became the norm for me. And who wants to feel like that? Who wants to feel like they're the only person in the room? Yeah. I appreciate conversations where we may disagree, because maybe there's something that your experience is going to be totally different from mine, and you experience, how you see it is just different, and I appreciate that. I think that's what we're missing as humans, is just conversation, respectful conversation with each other that is about our experiences.
And some of those conversations, to be quite candid, if they can be disrespectful, as long as you're both listening. Like we can get into it as long as we're both listening for the result. Like been in those rooms, right? Like like I coached football in Washington. Same thing. I didn't recognize it until I saw it. Let me explain. I always walk into every room as myself. Now there's a weekend Jay. Some people get. They're like, oh, that's There's a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday Jay that I present, that everybody, we're
the weekend Jay Crip walks.
Oh yeah, we get it going. We have good. Weekend Jay has a good time. But he don't get to hang out all the time. So that's how that is.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice until you noticed. So when you started noticing, you say things a little bit different. Your energy changes just a little bit. It typically followed me either making an excellent point or proving something that you hung your hat on to be obsolete. Let me say that. And I've got a new and fresh idea. We could do it this way. This isn't the best way, but until we get to the best way, it's better than the way we're doing it.
Right.
Then we all recognize what flavor of the particular ice cream I was, because, well, I mean, we're not going to do the street, another buzzword y'all might want to write down. Street, urban. What's my favorite one? I can't even think of it right now, but street, urban. This may not be the place for that.
Oh yeah.
Things like this started to become more. We need more structure. Things like this. That I started hearing those phrases more and more. The more successful I became doing it the way that I thought it should be done, the more I heard those phrases more readily thrown about. Well, I don't know if we'll do this at the highest levels. that things like this. Like there's a way to say shit without saying shit. And I've known a bunch of people that I grew up with a grandmother as much as I love her. She said a lot of shit without saying shit. So
Right.
I got real good at figuring out what was actually being said versus what I heard.
Yeah. 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 That's very common, I think, in like any industry, not even tech, like
Yeah.
kind of having to weed through the bullshit that people are they're yeah, they're like nonverbal
Yeah.
like actions or cues that they're giving and stuff. So I can imagine like having a skill set like trying to read the bullshit we do the bullshit is really valuable. I don't know if I ever really gained that very well, or like, like I was mentioning, I've been with my company for a long time, no promotion, seeing people getting promoted, but I'm like, oh, just work harder. Like maybe was able to read it, but my family just ingrained in me, don't do this. You got to be like this. You got to act a certain way. You got to present yourself a certain way. And it was interesting because my my dad's family is from Tennessee and
Okay.
my mom's family is from Louisiana. And my dad's family was very like fair complected, and they're like, oh, you don't want to get dark. They used to, as a toddler, they used to have my youngest uncle, he was a teenager at the time, follow me around with an umbrella in the sun so I didn't get darker.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
it's interesting. And you had to look a certain way, and you had to represent like my maiden name is Heron. You had to be a certain type of Heron, and you had to like, like there was no strand out of place, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know what I'm talking about.
I'm 100% with you. Let me pause you right there. I want to break
Yeah,
off
no, say it.
the that mindset, that thought process, right? Like that you don't want to mess up the name.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I gave you a good name.
yeah,
That's the one thing, especially coming into, right? Like we didn't come into wealth or anything. So that was the one thing that I know I can give you, a name you can stand on, you can better it, you can take it to the next level, whatever the case may be. The other side of that is that puts like, well, if I fight at home and I fight when I leave,
yeah,
I'm now a fighter.
yeah.
So then you see a situation that fighting doesn't go. Like there cannot be any benefit to the fight. You should just go with this current. It is going to go.
Right,
Why do you come to me and say, why is everything a fight?
right. You fight. We always fight. Yeah, the fight's always happening.
It's always happening. So when you're growing up and to your right, like your situation, you're fighting to understand, well, why. You don't
Yeah,
really know why that be the case. That makes no rhyme or right. Like, but all these things are being pushed upon you, and you're dealing with absorbing those. That's
yeah,
who you are. People are telling you that's who I mean. People like people that are raising your mom, dad, so forth,
yeah,
whatever. Like they're telling you this is who you are. You're this lollipop guild. We're all in this together. It's this whole
yeah,
thing. Then
yeah.
you leave and you realize, shit, I'm on this island
Right,
and nobody likes me.
right, right, right.
So now I got to fight again. And then I get home. Well, what happened out there? Well,
Yeah.
it depends on what I tell you. I don't know what house you grew up in. It depends on what I tell you what happened, is how much shit I'm going to get for not either solving it, fixing it, or checking it.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know why there was so you know what? I know why there's so much pressure for families back then to like go out there and have this representation of themselves. Is that's all we had for a long time,
That's true.
and we passed that down from generation. All we had was our like name, especially from slavery. Like we didn't have land and schooling and some of the things that we aspired, or wealthier or affluent people were
Right.
able to obtain. And so one thing we had was our name. And I could see why my grandmother was like, "Oh, you got to go out this house and you got to represent." Like,
I got it.
yeah,
And that's what becomes right to your earlier. That's what becomes code switching. That's what
yeah,
becomes like being a chameleon in these spaces.
yeah.
Because me too. Like I don't. It's so ingrained,
It
and
is.
unprogramming something is so. I'm talking about me now, but
Oh, well, you.
unprogramming something is so much more intrusive and difficult than taking this blank slate and then making it into something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so it's so much harder to like. I mean, think about it. I got bad eating habits. Shit, I want to eat honey buns every night before bed, in the bed with the wrapper, whatever. Shit, you mean I can't have honey buns every night in the bed, but like to try to untrain myself not to have dessert every night because it's not good for me. I'm 48 years old. I need to watch, my blood pressure, my blood sugar, my this, my that. Um, I can't have honey buns. So it takes you a long time to unprogram yourself. That's just food. So could you
Oh my
imagine
God.
like
Yeah.
years of upbringing that you have to try to unprogram yourself from doing? I don't know how it's possible. I don't know.
It's and that's what I'm saying. Like it's completely wild to really think like, and that's a great analogy. Like as an adult, it's fairly simple. That arbitrary freedom, I bought it, I can go eat it whenever the hell I feel like it. Transitioning it to, well, it's not a lack of, it is a lack of discipline, but it's not, it's the application of the discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep, yep.
Like having an understanding, bringing that into how we are in the world, how we emote, how we have conversations. I am far more measured in a difficult conversation outside my home
Mm-hmm.
than I am inside my home.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
exponentially different. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay, you don't know me from anybody. You think I'm gonna whoop your ass. I could.
I could.
I would like not to.
Oh,
So this is the track. This is the track. I'm gonna give you this track so we can diffuse the situation. And there we go. In my house, it might be completely different. Oh, well, let's go get it
right,
then.
right. Oh my God. You said something that makes me think about like every time, especially the last 2 years when people were like in your face, calling you a nigga and all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff going on. I was like, I wish a motherfucker would. I wish they would so I could, yeah. But people must see, and I walk around, I don't look dangerous or like I'd kick your ass. I don't think so. But apparently I might give off that vibe because
Tanya, you don't give off the meek and unaware type vibe. If I mean, I ain't gonna lie for the people. You do not give off the, you know what? I just want to go in the world and pick some flowers. That's not what I get when I hang
no,
out with you.
I do though. I it's funny because I'm like, I wish a motherfucker would and nobody would. Except one time I was coming home with Amari
Okay.
and this lady was mad about something else. And she like
It's always something.
started to yeah, it had nothing to do with me. So me, Amara's like walking. We're about to walk down our little our I don't know, it's like I live in like a court kind of thing, but it's a long court. Anyhow, he's about to walk down there and she called me a nigga. And I was like, what? And I had a bike helmet in my hand and she was standing right next to me. And I said, if you say it again, I'm gonna bust you upside the head. That's back helmet. She didn't say that again. She called me a bitch. Bitch is, I don't care. Bitch is probably accurate. I mean, niggas probably accurate too, but we're not, I'm not going to go there. But nobody would. You like sometimes go out into the world and just be like, I wish somebody would tempt me today. And nobody ever tempts me. Makes me sad.
But that's the part. I feel like we are like separated from birth in
Birth.
a lot of ways, just in general. Because I've had that energy for decades. Like I've been on it. But I haven't had that in a long time.
Well, it's interesting because I always get the vibe from you, like, again, you're straight up, but I, you're not scary. I don't think you're scary. Maybe it's because I know you, but I'm like, Jay, it's just Jay.
It's just, but see that I think that's a part of it, right? Like, if I don't know that every member of the insane asylum feels like the other members is dangerous.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point
Like,
because,
if we got trapped in the, and not like a aspersion on mental health case. I have mental health myself. That's not it. I'm
yep,
saying, if you're in a situation where you feel like, oh shit, this could go left, and I could never see how it did or where it came from.
right.
The people that are involved in that every day don't feel that way.
Yeah, that's true. That is a very good point. I'm like, yeah, crazy doesn't recognize.
Like, oh no, that's fine. It's
that's
fine.
that's really normal.
That'll be
Yeah.
fine. I don't. This is.
I mean, that happens. I'm more like a silent assassin, so I'm in the background. You won't see me coming up on you, kind of thing. That I mean, we've kind of gone over a lot of things, but you ask your friend, you ask
Oh,
Andrell.
all right. Oh, well.
Um, there would be times where like we were out somewhere. One time we were both getting out the expedition and I was driving. So I'm 5'2". The expedition is really, like it's like a little person getting out of a big ass, I don't know, diesel truck. Anyhow, he gets out on the other side and there's two girls and a convertible on his side. And he gets out and they're like, hey, and I come around the front of the truck and I just stop there and I stand there and I look at him. I'm like, hey. They said nothing. They didn't look my way. They didn't like nothing. And Drell's like, please come on, because he already knows. It's like, you may kick my ass. I don't care if there's 5 of you. You may beat me down, but I am going down swinging.
It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt so bad. Like, you know what? Y'all gonna have a story, maybe.
Right.
Maybe could. Maybe you're gonna have a story, but it's gonna hurt everybody.
I don't know where that comes from. What does that come from?
I've been doing some digging.
Oh.
Thank you, COVID. No, I really mean that. I mean that from the perspective of that restriction, that inability to go and do like I wanted to, reinvigorated the application of discipline, to understand what it is. What are the things that trigger me? What are the things that allow for me to want to whatever that thing is? Like, it's the elimination, whether it's my relationships, whether it's my friendships, whatever it is for me, it's the elimination of an excuse. That's where it comes from for me. I don't want you to be able to say, well, and I've gotten over this to a fault, like not completely, but I understand where it comes from. I'll still be pissed. I'll feel it, but we'll work itself out.
Yeah.
That you can't get something over on me. Like, that's like a personal violation. Like, that'll keep me up at night.
Yeah.
It bothers me that much. And that's a part of that programming, that somebody is now taking advantage of you, whether you knowingly participated or you didn't. That those parts for me, once that becomes a violation, it's on. I will scorch earth. And I know that gets thrown around, like, whatever it takes to make you stop existing on this level is what I'm willing to do. I will do it. Whatever it takes. I got stabbed too. Then we both stabbed in this motherfucker. Like, that level of vitriol, that level of passion for this thing, it matters to me that much. Is it juvenile? Absolutely. Am I better than that? More than. You have no idea. Is it still gonna call my attention till this shit is finished? Yes.
I'm laughing because we have absolutely been separated at birth
I'm
because because I have told Andrell, I will take out a fucking city block with a school bus
for
on it.
one,
The children are just casualties of war.
one,
From
for one person,
one motherfucker.
one.
That is what I'm saying. And that's not okay. You are right.
It's not. It's not. It's not. But I will.
But you will. Yes, it is the truth. And it's a character flaw. I recognize it and I'm working on it. God ain't finished with me yet.
At all. Or my wife, blessings and prayers. I'm held together with duct tape and high hopes. I just try to
Right.
make sure they don't catch me on one of them days.
Yeah, one of them days
where you when you look at a shirt and you pull it too far and you start seeing where I don't want them to sneak in because I get that ass. It'll be over.
Yeah. And I'm like, who has this in me? And you're right. It's like, I it's someone getting over on you. That's a big deal to me. I don't know what it is. I feel like I need to explore my childhood to figure out
I assume, right? Like I don't know this to be true. I'm very heavy on therapy and meditation and doing the thing and that stuff. I think it helps a tremendous amount and it's not highlighted enough.
It's not.
And I say it in my own home when my wife asked me, like I talk through some of the traumas and the things that I've dealt with in my life to her. That's my person. And she'll tell me like that might be above my pay grade. Shit, that's whew, okay. But I'm very hesitant in talking to I'm like, so wait, I'm explaining this shit to somebody that doesn't know me, doesn't know what I've been through, more than that, who I am now. Like I'm a sum total of all these parts. I respect that, but that's not who I am right now. I've compartmentalized all these things so I can be a great husband, I can be a great dad, I can be a great friend, brother, otherwise. Like I make sure that I'm focused on helping somebody else is more important to me than dealing with some bullshit that's already happened.
Absolutely. That I know of you for sure. And you will go to the depths of hell.
Same energy, like that same energy. Tanya, we eat popcorn because damn, take burn this whole shit down.
Right.
That same energy, I will help whoever with that same fervor until the job is completed.
Yeah. No, and I don't know. I had it's interesting because I am currently speaking with a therapist and I'm be open and honest about it. Like it's good to kind of like get those things off your chest that you experience that either you want to work on it better yourself, and that's the goal for me.
It's the number one.
It's getting like any trauma that you held out and like having no just dialogue with someone that doesn't know you and they're seeing this or hearing this for the first time. And I heard myself telling my therapist, some of the stories that I experienced growing up. And I started saying, this sounds like a movie. You probably don't believe what I'm about to tell you right now, but this is what shaped me and who I am and why I will tear down a city block with a school bus and for one person and stuff. It is because of these things. 1%. So I know we probably, I don't know, we probably don't have enough time to touch on this, but like mental health is a huge thing that I think we don't discuss enough in the Black community.
Agreed.
I think Black men especially do not have a clear defined role, or not role, but like they don't look at therapy or mental health as something that they need because they've been trained all these years. You take care of your family, you do this, you do that, but they also need an outlet to it. I think Black women are more likely to go to therapy and be open and honest about it. I think Black men still struggle with that, and we have to create a safe environment for men of all color, really, to like be vulnerable.
Well, allow me, if you will, to and this I would like this to be a banter not just a one-sided thing. It's
Yeah.
the reason for me. I'll speak for me. I'm not speaking for nobody else because I'm accountable to myself.
Right.
The main reason up until this point, even my wife, there's stories that my wife is the only other person that could
Mhm.
possibly ever know this story, right? Like the reason is because it's always been weaponized
Mhm.
to and toward me, whatever the information was. It didn't have to be some holy grail secret, whatever. Like it, whatever the information was, I've always felt, not in every avenue or every arena or every relationship for that matter, but the more information I give you, the more you have to use when you're upset or when you're angry or when
Yeah.
you want to take me down a peg or whatever the nomenclature would be. Like that's why when
Yeah.
people ask me, they're well, I flipped all that on its head in COVID because I came on here and I just fell out of shit went, and that's what it is. So now, fuck, what do you got to say now?
Right.
It's different because we as men, let's just I'll hit men. You're supposed to be, to your point, the provider. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you bringing? How are you hunting and killing and bringing back for the rest of the team?
Yeah.
From that perspective, therapy, you're looking at it in one direction. By that, I mean, well, if you're not right, how can we win anyway? If
Mhm.
you get overwhelmed to commit suicide, how can we win anyway? That's
Yeah.
not how men look at it. And I'm
Yeah.
speaking to a level that, like, I've gone through some dark times, depression or whatever, and I contemplated committing suicide. Same.
Yeah.
The idea is that you're mentally incapable of dealing with what's going on. That's what the shadows, demons, whatever the case may be, are trying to get you to believe. What's actually taking place is if you liberate yourself, you free yourself from that. What will anybody think if I told them, well, Jay, big, strong, he's done all these things, jumped out of planes, shot big guns, all this other stuff he's done. He
Yeah.
carries all that shit with him every day.
But how do we expect people to carry all that shit and not like release it? Now you are lucky enough to have a supportive wife that you can tell her things that you will never share with anyone else. But a lot of people don't have that. And what if there's things that you're not comfortable, not you just want to share it with someone who doesn't know you or hold it
Or
against you,
can't, yeah,
weaponize
or
it,
can't hold that.
right?
But that's what I mean. Like most people, and from a therapeutic perspective, right? Like
Right.
just all academic, they want to make you better. Like the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, all that fun jazz.
Yeah.
That's what you're going in there as. But on your way out, you still have to deal with the rest of the
The world.
judging world that may or may not be. I know for a fact, my grandfather, right up here, there's
Mhm.
no way in a hot fart in hell that he was going to go talk. He might, hit golf balls, bowl, or whatever. Obviously, I'm speaking out of school a little bit. I'm telling you how I feel about the situation. So this man was like a pillar. Same kind of gravitas, if you will. Like when I walk into a room, I walked to that room. My grandfather was very much the same way. Like
Yeah.
walked into the room, he was the minister and everything else. I know for a fact he had a ton of demons.
Yeah.
He didn't go talk to a single soul. It
No.
wasn't that was frowned upon then. That's in a lot of ways, we all say commonly, not necessarily privately, commonly that, yeah, hey man, if you need help, go get help.
Yeah.
Hey, if you need somebody to do your taxes, TurboTax. Won't nobody say shit about you using TurboTax to go do your taxes.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
But in that same vein, well, I had a rough day today. The almost almost the first thing that people say is either, well, it's fucking tough for everybody. Well, it's hard all around. Well, if you sat in a circle and everybody had a problem, you probably run away with yours because shit, it ain't that bad because you don't have a kid on drugs or you don't, whatever the fucking case may be. That does not change you having to deal with it in addition to something else.
Right. Yes. That is exactly it. Like, yes, everybody has issues. Everybody has a bad day, and somebody's bad day may seem like a walk in the park compared to what they're going through. But that doesn't mean that that person's day still wasn't shitty for them, right? And so we have to stop. And I do this a lot. Is somebody will come and tell me something, and I'll go, wow, I know how you feel, and I try to find something to relate to them when I should just be listening
Yeah.
and just, wow, that must be really tough. Is there anything I can do for you to help you navigate this? What can I do? And I'm that's a character flaw, and I'm working on it.
That's to your point. That's the same thing. Same. I was doing the same. I call it. Don will tell you. I call it playing tops. So if you, I used to play tops. So if you showed up to me, let's call it 7 years ago, you show up to me, you've got a problem. Your wife breast smell bad in the morning, whatever the case may be. Whatever your situation was, I've got a story that'll top that one. So now you don't feel so bad, or you'll shut the fuck up and leave me alone with your problem.
Right. Yeah, I agree with both of those solutions to you telling, topping them off. But it really was like, don't feel so bad. I have it worse kind of thing. You really are trying to get them to like realize it's not so bad. But and then when people started doing it to me, because you know a little bit about what I've been experiencing with the older boys in the last few
Oh,
years and
fair. Yeah.
stuff. And I would like share my story, and it's like people would go, "Oh, wow, here's my, here's mine," and I'm like, I just want you to listen
Just
at this
listen to
point
this
in
shit.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes, and I feel I've learned. My wife has saved my life many times over, spiritually and otherwise. In this regard, that sometimes the telling is the soundboard. Sometimes that is the therapy that I can tell you, and by telling you and whatever feedback, right? Like I'm not necessarily harping or glomming onto the feedback you give me, but it lets me talk my problem out. So maybe I can solve it for myself
yeah,
from these threads that you give me. I can weave something that's exponentially more useful to me, and
yeah,
also sometimes to you, right? Like
yeah.
it goes both ways in that regard. But to the earlier summation of the issue, I don't know that that'll ever be solved, and I say that because I feel that we are raising in a generation of men who don't know what being a man is, and not in the good version of that. I mean that to say, like, what my grandfather and his father thought a man should be, I don't believe half of that to be manly.
Mhm.
I don't feel that way. I don't feel the need to put someone down so I can stand up. I've never felt
Mhm.
that way.
Mhm.
But that was a way of transacting and doing business, that they felt like that's the way to do it. That's how you be a man. You tell your wife where she's going to go and what she's going to do. Yeah, no.
Mhm.
Like that's what being a man was. Oh, you're not running your house. Your kid's out there doing XYZ. That you didn't take care of your business. That's
Yeah,
not true.
that's
Your kid could have grown up in the best possible environment that you could provide and still be dog shit. I don't mean like, I mean in general. Like
yeah,
people have to take accountability for their own interpersonal actions and choices, but that's not being a man.
yeah,
Being
yeah,
a comprehensive, fully whole human being, you have to have compassion. You have to have passion for something. You have to have the ability, where I suffer and struggle receiving love as much as you can give it.
yeah.
My capacity for giving love is exponential. My capacity for receiving love is minute.
Is my new.
Is It's completely different.
Well, I assume that it had your capacity to receive love is small because of the men you have modeled after. And this is my assumption, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Is because of the men that you had to model after, and there's no fault in that, because during the time that they were like coming up, and the women not having rights, or that men really were the head of their household. If you were married,
Well,
you
yes.
listen. If your husband said, I need you to be here at this time, or at home, dinner done, in that dress that I really, really like with a garter belt on, you better have it done, right? So it was very different. Now, is that to say that if they were, raised during this time, they would have different ideas? I don't know, probably. I don't know. Who knows? Um, but and maybe they'd like that um you've kind of taken from them what they taught you, piece together what you liked and appreciated, but
Yeah.
also became your own man by, trial and error. Because that's the only way we're kind of like we're making this shit up as we go. Parenting,
Yes.
marriage, being a human being, all of that shit is just made up. There's no book. What do they call it?
And
Instruction
instruction
manual.
book. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
get an instruction manual for how to be.
Oh no, because think about the information that we have today
Okay.
that we didn't have 20 years ago, say for instance.
That's
Like
fair.
and they really didn't have any information. Everything that was passed down was generational, through the family, work ethic,
Yeah.
everything, right?
Even the stories. Like what
Yeah.
took
Yeah. I mean, they just didn't have the same information that we had. And I guess there is, like, I don't know, like, if we got into like my upbringing and stuff, like, there was a lot of things I missed out on, right? Like, my parents were young when they had me. I didn't really have a lot of instruction and rules and love and caring and all that other
right.
other stuff. But somehow I determined as a child that what I wasn't receiving, I wanted to do the opposite of that.
To
Like,
create it. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I wanted to create this environment that I didn't know about and didn't exist, or I just like made it up in my head, like, oh, parents are always supposed to be there and they're supposed to make waffles and with blueberries and cut straw, you know what I mean? Like, I started making up some shit that I thought was ideal, and I'm pretty sure I got it from the Brady Bunch, because that was like
Could
the
have been.
program of the time, right?
And shout out, that's how I parent. That's how I parent. I take all the pieces and I created what I've wanted or I needed or felt like I needed. I mean, I ended up okay. I felt like I needed and what I wanted in those spots, whether it's being a teenager, whether it's being as the case is, a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, I don't know. Like I'm the dad that I wanted when I was there.
Yeah.
That I would have been, oh, okay, well, he'll tell you how it is. He's always going to tell you the truth. He's going to give you the discipline for yourself, not
Yeah.
for, you embarrassed him in front of XYZ. He wants you to be comprehensive because you should be.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah.
stop. That's it. Because you should be able to discipline yourself and understand that this needs to happen before that happens. Yep. Hell yeah. Playing video games is fun.
Yeah.
What's also fun is making sure that you eat. What's
Right.
also fun is, you know what I'm saying? Like having that experience and to your point, pulling from sources that your imagination and also the tangible. I couldn't count on one hand the amount of times that my parents or grandpa otherwise like just said I love you or I
Yeah.
was proud of you
Yeah.
or whatever.
Oh, this is so true. I was watching TikTok. See, I got to get off of TikTok for one. That's number one. I get in a rabbit hole, but it was a lady who said she was 48, and the way we grew up was we just got older around adults that weren't really parenting us, because we were on our own. We were latchkey kids. We
Yep.
sometimes made dinner on our own and stuff. They weren't there to give us
Crunchy spaghetti right here.
that's what
First 4 or 5 times, crunchy as shit.
I'm saying. But they weren't there, like, as these parents are today, to like emotionally support us and guide us through stuff. They're like, don't burn down the motherfucking house.
Yeah.
Don't let your friends in.
I
I'll
wish you
be back
might let one of your little friends in here eating up the groceries that I just bought.
that I just bought. Yes. Yeah. And that's how it was. So there wasn't anybody saying, Tanya, how's your day today?
How you
Oh wow,
feeling?
that sounds yeah, how you feeling? What are your grades like? Do you I my whole high school was spent after my freshman year was spent in the library or in the dance studio in the back, like hidden and stuff. I think I cut so much class one year, my junior year, that they thought I was still a freshman. That's how bad it was. I mean, I rectified that later
Yeah.
on.
But to your point, that's exactly what I meant. Like even like I think I put it, it's like on one of the first 4 or 5 podcasts. Like
Yeah.
I was heavily bullied to like the 6th grade.
Yeah.
My parents, family didn't like, they were like, hey, why don't you, we could have done something about, like, we could have whatever. I'm like, we didn't have that. So I mean, we might have the reason we have some of the throughways, and let me make sure I'm clear on this one. Some of the conversations and communications that we have now is because I'm more open. It's not something they did. I'm more willing to bring information to the table, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Instead of, right, like we're all subjugated when we're children. I don't know if Logan and Mackenzie are, because they tell you how the hell it is, whatever age you are. But I was not that, where I would openly share how I felt, and then I just told you, y'all do something about it.
Yeah.
My kids are raised that way, so they let me know. Like I have no concern or fear or otherwise. She's a sophomore in high school right now. She had a problem with the teacher, and I asked the question off the gate, but I didn't send no email, none of that. Do you need me to get involved?
Right. Yeah.
Like and it's well known on this thing. Like I have 2 no-fly zones in my life. Tanya, I'll talk to anybody about any subject. We can talk about midgets, tossing a book, whatever, civil right, whatever you want to talk about. I will not talk. I will not talk to you or negotiate about my wife. I will not talk to you or negotiate about my kids. And they know that.
Yeah.
So having them, and more than they know that, I really appreciate, especially Kyler was the lead. He'd asked me what I thought, but he knew, just like he knows now, being grown, like, if you tag me in, I'm not going to stop until it's solved or it's over. Sometimes it's both.
I'm laughing because Amari won't tag me in. He'll never tag me
I'm
in.
like you. Oh God, I'm like those old school WWF tag.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, just touch me. I'm gonna get their ass. Just bring me in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I always talk about memes and stuff like that, but I sent Amari a meme and it said, it was a kid who went to his mom, hey mom, come up to the school and please wear all black. And the mom was like, who we got smoke with? I'll be there, blah blah blah. He's like, mom, we don't have smoke. I'm in a play. Like just wear all
Okay.
okay. And I was like, Amari, who is this? He's like, you. Because I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready whenever. So you're right. Whenever there is a problem, especially because you do not negotiate about your family,
I won't.
like they're probably, you ask them because they know what's going to happen. If they bring you in, it's got to be some real stuff going down for them.
It happened to be, and I'm gonna leave this one alone because I know my daughter watches some of these. I'm gonna leave this one alone. She said, no, daddy's like he was a football coach, and then and there and then, and he's teaching like a health class and something. I said, okay. Well, I mean, I'm glad to go. I'll go. Let me go talk to him. I'll go talk to him. She's like, Dad, no. No, you can't go talk to him. I'm like, babe, I'm just gonna talk. Let me talk. I'm a grown man. I can talk to somebody. But Dad, no, because he's gonna say, because she gave me like what he was saying to her. And I'm like, okay, no problem. She's like, no, Dad, you're gonna say something, and then he's gonna say something, and then there ain't no more talking.
Yeah.
And there you go. I'm like, no, I'm with you. But also, she's like, or you make it worse for me on the back end. Nope, it will never be worse for you on the back end. It might be like, it might, somebody's whispering or whatever at the lunchroom, but it ain't ever gonna be worse
Never.
for you on the back end. I'm like, plus his defense is dog shit. Never mind, but that's different.
But that's
That's
something
a
different.
whole other thing. But yeah, she was like, see, even right there, like you're gonna say something to him like that'll hurt him, and then he's just gonna respond because I want you to be honest. Because if you're gonna
You
talk to my child like this, I want to find the one in there because we all have a duality, no matter who
you
you are.
and Drell are alike because it's about you won't even have to physically touch anybody, but it's about crushing their soul. And I'm like, why are we trying to crush people's souls? Like, this is not okay with words. Like, if you go to the football coach and be like, yo, defense is trash, his whole world is going to be,
It's gonna
because he
change his
knows
thing.
it, because he
But
already knows it.
but it stems for me. It stems from you're picking on my child.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel some kind of way about that. Now, as much as I am very much on the side of mental health, I am very much anti-bully, I am very much all these things. Sometimes you need to let a motherfucker know what it is.
What it is.
You want to pick on somebody, please. I welcome it. That's one of the reasons I never have a fear or concerned about getting canceled or somebody talk whatever. Come talk to me.
Yeah.
We can talk it through, but if it's some bullshit, I'm gonna call you on it because that's what it is. You're gonna pick on my 115-pound daughter. Come get me.
Come get you. Yeah. No, and that you know what, Jay, that is something that I've appreciated about you. You got very straight up. This is how it is, and you don't get a lot of people like that, and it's not in a mean way, right? Like, I think people get offended when someone comes and it's just straight up to them. It's because I know that if I call you and I say, hey, because I've done it, if I need your help in this matter, you and your wife are going to
whatever
get in there and
let's
do
get it going.
Yeah. And I also know you'd be like, that's a bullshit. What are you talking
about? Like, wait. Now tell me the middle again.
Right. And I know our office hours are the same. So
very much.
Yeah.
Very much. Tanya, I appreciate you a great deal for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, it's an honor. Honestly, it's an honor. It's been great to catch up and just chit chat. You should have me back again. I got a lot of shit.
I know with that, and we look forward to, especially I wanted to breathe more estrogen into the podcast also. That was one of the main things, and having a different perspective. And you touched on it a little bit in the middle of the conversation. Having a different perspective, for better, for worse, or otherwise, it provides more color to what is actually taking place. So when we get into conversations about mental health, when we get into conversations about color, these hot button issues and everything else, you got to talk about it with people who are dealing with it. Otherwise, how can you actually deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just gives you so much perspective. So I applaud you for having these conversations and the open dialogue and the diversity, in the people that you're choosing, not just like gender wise, but just where the individual's backgrounds are from. And because we cannot learn and grow from each other if we're doing same.
All the same.
Yeah.
Everything's the same. Well, we all look the same. Well, what the hell can you tell me? And I've been sitting in here with you all damn day. Nothing.
Right. Nothing. Exactly. I know you already. You can't tell me anything new. So, keep doing that work, keep, putting content out there, having these conversations with everyone, because I definitely think that, it's great. It's good entertainment, and it's good to just hear you're not alone. Other people think and feel these ways. Yeah.
That we I forget the author. My sophomore year English teacher is going to be pissed. But no man is an island. completely and unto himself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much. Next, on to the next meeting now.
Oh, goodness.
All
Thank you
right.
guys very much. If you
Yeah.
like the content, please like and subscribe. Once again, it's been Jay Smith, your host from Root to the Fruit, and Miss Tanya Ford. Truthfully, be good to each other and have a wonderful time.